Hello guys, welcome back to part 2 of our layoffs mini-series. Please go back and see part 1 if you haven't seen it yet. Briefly talks about what you need to do in your first week. Covers all the benefits, staying purposeful, making sure that you're getting the right information, you know how to act moving forward. So this week, or the second part, is going to go over a little bit more of the psychological aspects of it. It's a very complex mental issue. Obviously, it's nothing as major of a life event as, say, a death in the family or other bigger events, health-related illnesses, different things like that. But it is a pretty major event in terms of your overall purpose, self-confidence. And it will try your resilience and perseverance as a person. This is not a short process, and you need to stay positive throughout it, because otherwise it's real easy to kind of get stuck in a rut, get a little bit the victim mentality, and can really change your outlook and how you act around a lot of people as well. So, like I said, we've completed the things in week 1. It's roughly about 3.5 weeks past my original layoff. I had planned to do a video the second week, but probably wasn't there mentally yet to be talking about how to handle it from a psychological aspect. I know with my particular layoff, I had a lot of anger with it, a lot of trying to understand what I was doing wrong. And in that process, sometimes it is you and sometimes it isn't, and it's more important to understand what your options are moving forward, and looking at the new opportunity rather than I need to go back and right these wrongs that have been against me, or be justified in my defiance, so to speak, which are all good things in in a Hollywood type, go in and tell the boss where to shove it, but at the same time it may not be your best option moving forward and helping get past the event. So like I said, it's a fairly traumatic event, and there's going to be different levels of that, depending on how the layoff occurred, depending on a huge amount of variables. So I'm going to try and go through a few of these items with you guys to help you characterize it, so you can also understand it. Remember, positivity in every action. We're looking for self-improvement. When we're looking through these "why did the layoff happen to me" event, it's, well, can we fix something going forward so it doesn't happen again, so we aren't making the same mistake? And you may get to the end of it and there is no good reason, which that case, you're just going to have to square with that, take it as a new opportunity, and move forward. Again, this will vary depending on what your role was. Just a basic ground level employee. Maybe you're a higher up person. Maybe you're a higher level manager. What was your dedication to the job? Did you live to work? If you really liked your workplace, that made you feel so purposeful, and that's all you had, it can be very tough for you when they tell you they don't want you anymore. Your occupation type. Some fields, some jobs experience layoffs more often than others. I think of like IT, software areas, where you're working really hard on a big project, and when that project ends, they typically cut staff. Some fields have very rare to have a layoff, and it can be, well, I'm in this field that should be layoff proof, how come I got laid off? And also just how much time you had at the company. You may have been at the company for a number of years. That's going to build a lot of loyalty, a lot of questioning, well, I've spent this much time here already, and what do I get for it, type of a deal. But so let's try and characterize the layoff, and this will help you get to one or two general results. But is it widespread or is it targeted? Sometimes the order goes out, business conditions are poor, the business line is failing, the model's failing, whatever it is. The CEO says we need to cut 20% of staff from all departments. That's just how it is. Every department's gonna see layoffs, and that's a part of our business effort to survive, and that happens. It's out of your control. When I say it's targeted, is that something, now are you in a niche group? Think of, landline telephones 10 years ago. These have largely gone the way of the dodo bird. Because you can see this trend coming, and eventually these departments are going to be eliminated. And that's also kind of out of your control as an employee. It was a good run. We did as best we could, but at the end of the day, if people don't need these products or these items or services anymore, businesses are going to have to make tough decisions. Next, so now let's look at it from a business logic standpoint. Let's sit from the perspective of the manager, and try and give reasons for it. Okay, were you laid off because maybe you were the lowest person on the totem pole? Maybe you had the least amount of seniority. Unfortunately, that's how some of these decisions are made. Maybe it was something to do with how your role was in the company. Did you recently transfer under a new manager, and that old manager or your new manager now doesn't know you as well? There's less of a personal connection there. There's less of a sense of caring for that. Try and look at it. Is there something there that it makes sense? You know what? We needed to cut these staff. This role, this position got eliminated. We can't keep these people around. And then also evaluate it from a standpoint of, maybe you have some defects as an employee. Were you timely to showing up to work? Were you executing on the things you needed to complete? Do you have complaints against you? These various things, whether they're substantiated or not, they go into these decision-making processes of, oh yeah, this guy is usually about 15 minutes late every day, or he takes a really long lunch all the time, and he's gonna be the first person versus the other person who's on time all the time. So it just kind of, some of those decisions get to be just that simple. And then the manner in which it was conducted. Was this something, was it handled really well professionally? Was there general concern, or was it more of a, there's the door, don't let it hit you on the way out? So you can kind of get a feel for that. Given this result, you're going to have kind of two areas. A layoff that, say, is largely out of your control. Bad things happen in life. You got to pick yourself up. You got to move forward. That's just what it is. Don't try and explain it. Don't try and understand it. But that's just how these things work sometimes. And take a positive outlook of, you're going to get to do something new, a better opportunity. You're going to make yourself better, and they're going to be sorry that they let you go. So it's how to look at it. Now, sometimes there's illogical or possibly even intentional. These are going to be the tougher, more traumatic psychological damage. This is a personal item. If it may take some real effort, some real work to let go of these feelings and to close with them. So kind of to go through just some of the basic steps in my layoff, which was a bit abrupt. First thing I wanted to do was evaluate my options. So at the end of this, what would I have to do? Let's say you go in there and you're all full of anger right after the event, and you're like, why me? How can you guys be so dumb? What is your decision process? This makes no sense. You feel betrayed by the company. And you're defensive. You're under attack in those senses. Think about, what is your end result? Okay, you do that, and they look back up at you, and the highly unlikely case that it happens, but they say, oh, okay, you get your job back. How are you going to feel moving forward from that? I can't imagine after that betrayal, after that loss of loyalty and that violation of trust as an employee, knowing, well, I'm the first person they're going to cut if we have to go through this process again. It's kind of like, well, are you going to have a fulfilling employment after that? So I think you need to look at that type of a decision of what's the option going forward. you go through all this anger, and you set them down, and you explain to them why they're wrong in doing what they've done, and you get your job back, your old job back, or do you say, you know what, this is an opportunity. Odds are, if it's illogical or intentional, you were probably thinking of leaving the company ahead of time anyways, or you were under the impression that maybe things weren't going so well, maybe you weren't feeling fulfilled too. So look at it as an opportunity. You're going to go, and you're being released from this pain, if that makes sense. So and again, kind of to go through it, it's I really felt betrayed by it. I was very dedicated, I was very successful, had a very promising future ahead of me. It was had recently completed a huge amount of training. The company had really invested in me about 6 months prior for a client that I will, odds are, never work for. And they just basically threw away about $40,000 doing that. So when you look at that and you say it's illogical, it doesn't make sense, you'd think you want to keep this person with a future investment, not say another person who is still working there, who did not have this training, did not have this future potential, and actually did quite a bit less than I did. So it makes you wonder, well, and also gets paid more. So it makes you wonder, what's going on there? And some things cannot be explained. Some things are, our supervisors are human. Maybe they like the other person more. If it comes down to a decision of it, maybe they felt jealous of, that, say me coming up and replacing them or making them look bad. I don't know, and it really doesn't matter, because that means that this decision was governed by either a personal motive of they like one person more than the other, can't do anything about, or it's guided by, say, just pure incompetence. They're not looking at it from a business perspective. They're not looking at, well, man, we're going to lose out on this investment we've already made. And that brings you to the result of, well, do you really want to be working for a company that is making those types of decisions? Eventually there's going to be a problem coming down the road. So, again, would you return to this job after this event? Probably not. So, what you need to do is you need to go kind of move on from that. Hopefully this helps dissipate your anger, talking through the item like that. The next phase, so to speak, that I kind of went to was I wanted to be I wanted to get the last word, so to speak, the you know what, you're so dumb for doing this, and let me tell you why. But it sounds really fun to me, and given the opportunity in the correct setting, I would probably engage in this to my later regret. But keep in mind, this is a trap. First off, you're going to affirm the action that they laid you off. Wow, I'm glad that guy's gone. He was a jerk. He came in here and told me off, told me how dumb I was, told me all these mistakes I had made, pointed out my personal character flaws, whatever the case is, that you really want to go in there and just lay into them for these reasons. But again, you don't want to be doing that. Second, kind of keep in mind that these people have become your competition in the work world. So there's no reason to point out their character flaws, to give them something to improve upon. I would rather keep them in the dark. They continue to make the same mistakes. It doesn't help you by helping them. Simplest way to put it. How you should handle this: if you do have to go back and have a final conversation, an exit interview, a pick up your stuff, a drop off other company equipment, sign out, return your badge, whatever those things are, be respectful. Simply point out that they're going to miss your skills, abilities, things that you've contributed. Say, hey, I really hope you guys have some luck finding someone to replace me, because I thought I was a pretty integral part of the team. Basically, you're just trying to politely encourage a little bit of doubt. It's a good way of getting your last word. You can feel a little bit satisfied in that, but you're not going to go in there and just have it out with them. It's not worth it. So, finally, you kind of go through these steps. You release this pain, this anger, this angst, these feelings, and you're going to use friends, family, other outlets along the way. This isn't a once and you're done type of a deal. You know, you're still going to look back at it and go, man, what the heck? How come this happened to me? And it's like, well, sometimes these things happen. Sometimes it's how things work. It's an opportunity. It's a fresh start going forward. You know, and as you look at this, you have one direction. You know, we've talked about you can't go back to the old job because of those feelings that are under there, those underlying contempt, the betrayal, the loyalty, the trust issues. You know, you can't go back, so you have to go forward. It's your only direction right now. However, you get to choose the path that you're going forward on. You can take the path of the depressed victim, or you can have the head held high optimist, or opportunist. This is a new opportunity. This is a new way to look at things. Maybe you'll go do something more fun, more fulfilling, you know, better compensation, all of these different things, and you'll look back at it in 5 years and go, man, I was so glad I got laid off there because I got all of this extra stuff, these benefits from doing that. So, lastly, and this is an important part of beginning our next steps, which we'll talk about, the job hunt, interviewing tips, different things like that. Remember to develop a short background story characterizing these events for use in interviews or talking to recruiters or HR folks, whatever it is. You want it to be simple, you want it to be factual, and most importantly, it has to be bitter free. You know, hey, this was I was laid off because of certain business conditions. The price of oil had gone down, that cut our company's funding. Unfortunately, we were running short of work because of this, and that is why I'm looking for this new position. You know, I've taken this to go skill myself in these great traits and opportunities, and that's why I'd be a great fit at XYZ company. So something that they can look at and they can say, you know what, this person's not angry about it, they're not holding back, there's not a hidden story here. And you know, that's important for your health as well. You don't want to be sitting there rehashing these events over and over again in your head or holding on to this bitterness. You know, there's nothing good that's going to come of it. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you can help release that negativity. Remember, we're looking forward. Things are going to be better, and you know, there is going to be a solution. It's not just going to be this constant thing. You're going to improve. You're going to move on from this. So check in for our next installment. We'll talk about some job hunting, interview, and maintaining the perseverance in this longer term process.